Jake Morrison wiped the grease off his hands with an old rag. He had been working on the coffee maker in Section C for the past hour. The thing kept breaking down every few days, and the crew was getting angry about it. Jake did not blame them. Good coffee was hard to find on Frontier Base, the small space station that orbited Earth. The station was not much to look at. It had been built 20 years ago as a research post, but now it served as a basic dock for ships coming and going from Earth. Jake had worked there for 5 years as a maintenance engineer. He fixed whatever broke, and on a station this old, something was always breaking. Jake heard a strange sound coming from the docking bay. It was a low hum that he had never heard before. He put down his tools and walked toward the sound. The main corridor was empty, which was normal for this time of day. Most of the crew was either sleeping or working in the central hub. When Jake reached the docking bay, he stopped and stared. A ship unlike anything he had ever seen was floating just outside the station. It was huge, at least 3 times bigger than any Earth ship. The hull was smooth and silver with no visible engines or weapons. Strange blue lights pulsed along its sides in patterns that hurt to look at. Jake pressed the comm button on the wall. Control. This is Jake in Bay 7. We have an unknown ship requesting docking. The voice that came back sounded tired. Jake, we show nothing on our screens. Are you sure there is something out there? Jake looked at the massive ship again. Control. Trust me. There is definitely something here. A few minutes later, Captain Helen Brooks arrived at the docking bay. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been running Frontier Base for 10 years and had seen her share of strange things. But when she saw the alien ship, her face went pale. Jake, step back from the controls, she said quietly. We need to contact Earth Command right now. Before she could move, the alien ship sent out a beam of light that connected to the station's docking port. The whole bay filled with a soft, blue glow, and then the light faded. Jake heard the sound of the airlock opening. 3 figures walked through the airlock. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with long, thin bodies covered in what looked like metal skin. Their heads were larger than human heads, with big black eyes that seemed to look right through everything. They moved in a strange way, like they were floating instead of walking. The one in front held up what looked like a small metal box. When it spoke, the words came from the box in perfect English. Greetings, humans of this structure. I am Commander Zethkar of the Velthari Confederation. We come seeking peaceful contact with your species. Captain Brooks stepped forward, trying to look calm. Welcome to Frontier Base. I am Captain Helen Brooks. We are honored by your visit. Jake noticed that the captain's hand was resting on her sidearm. The aliens noticed too. Their big black eyes focused on her weapon, and they seemed to whisper to each other in a language that sounded like musical notes. Commander Zethkar held up another device. We understand you carry tools of violence. This troubles us. The Confederation believes in peaceful solutions to all problems. This is just standard safety equipment, Captain Brooks explained. We mean no harm. But Jake could see that something was wrong. The aliens were backing away slowly, and their metal skin was changing color from silver to a dark red. The one on the left was reaching for something on its belt. Captain, Jake said quietly, I think we have a problem. The alien on the left pulled out a weapon that looked like a crystal rod. It pointed the rod at Captain Brooks and made a sound like breaking glass. Jake saw the captain's body go stiff and she fell to the floor. The human leader shows aggression, Commander Zethkar said through his translation box. We must secure the area for proper evaluation. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. He looked around the docking bay for anything that might help. His eyes fell on the broken coffee maker he had been fixing earlier. It was sitting on a workbench near the wall, with its metal parts scattered around it. The alien with the crystal weapon was moving toward Jake now. Its big black eyes were focused on him, and the weapon was starting to glow with the same blue light as their ship. Jake grabbed the coffee maker's heating element and the power cord he had been working on. The heating element was still warm from his testing, and the cord had exposed wires where he had stripped the insulation. He twisted the wires around the metal element and held it like a club. Stay back, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. The alien made the breaking glass sound again and pointed its weapon at Jake, but Jake was already moving. He swung the makeshift weapon at a water pipe that ran along the wall. The exposed wires hit the pipe and sent sparks flying everywhere. The aliens jumped back, their red skin flashing to bright yellow. They had never seen electricity used as a weapon before. In their culture, energy was controlled through their advanced crystals, not wild and unpredictable like human electricity. Jake did not stop there. He grabbed a metal wrench from his tool belt and jammed it into the coffee maker's broken circuit board. More sparks flew and the smell of burning plastic filled the air. "What are you doing?" Commander Zethkar asked, his voice sounding confused through the translation box. "Making a weapon," Jake said simply. He connected the wrench to the power cord and held it toward the aliens. The wrench was now carrying electrical current, turning it into a dangerous shock weapon. It was crude and might not work for long, but it was something. The aliens whispered to each other in their musical language. Jake could not understand the words, but their body language was clear. They were scared. Commander Zethkar raised his hands in what might have been a peaceful gesture. "We did not expect this behavior. Your species turns ordinary objects into tools of war." "Only when we have to," Jake replied, still holding his improvised weapon. The alien who had stunned Captain Brooks lowered his crystal rod. He said something in their language, and Commander Zethkar nodded. "We will leave now," the commander said. "But we must report this incident to the Confederation Council. Your species may be more dangerous than we thought." The three aliens backed toward their airlock, never taking their eyes off Jake and his electrical weapon. Just before they disappeared into their ship, Commander Zethkar looked directly at Jake. "Tell us, human, what else can your people turn into weapons?" Jake thought about all the tools and machines around him. The maintenance robots, the air recycling systems, even the lights in the ceiling. In the right situation, almost anything could be used to defend or attack. "Everything," Jake said honestly. The alien's metal skin turned from yellow to deep purple. Without another word, the three figures disappeared into their ship. The blue light faded from the docking port, and the massive vessel pulled away from the station. Jake dropped his makeshift weapon and ran to Captain Brooks. She was breathing but unconscious. Her pulse was steady, which was a good sign. Whatever the alien weapon had done, it had not killed her. As Jake helped the captain to the medical bay, he thought about the alien's last question. The truth was that humans had always been good at making weapons out of whatever they had available. From the first caveman who picked up a rock to defend his family, to the engineers who built starships from metal and dreams, Jake had a feeling that the aliens would be back, and next time they would not be looking for peaceful contact. They would be coming to study the humans who could turn anything into a weapon. And maybe, Jake thought as he watched their ship disappear into the stars, that was exactly what the galaxy needed to know about humanity. Commander Zethkar stood before the great assembly on the planet Pristine. The massive hall was filled with representatives from 47 different species that made up the Velthari Confederation. The air hummed with translation devices as dozens of alien languages mixed together. At the center of the hall sat the Council of Elders. Elder Korthak of the Zephyrian race tapped his 6 fingers on the crystal table. His gray skin was marked with the blue lines that showed his age and wisdom. Next to him, Elder Mira of the peaceful Mentari closed her 4 eyes in what looked like meditation. The third elder, Vorthak of the warrior Corvin, kept his hand near his ceremonial blade. "Tell us again about these humans," Elder Korthak said, in his deep voice. "Your report is most disturbing." Zethkar activated a hologram that showed the encounter at Frontier Base. The assembled aliens watched as Jake Morrison turned a broken coffee maker into an electrical weapon. Gasps and whispers filled the hall when they saw the human attack the water pipe to create sparks. The human used common maintenance tools as weapons, Zethkar explained. But more troubling is his final statement. When I asked what else his species could weaponize, he said everything. Elder Vorthak leaned forward. His red skin darkened with what the Corvin called battle thought. Perhaps this human was simply boasting. Many species make grand claims when threatened. "I do not think so," Zethkar replied. He activated another hologram. We have been studying human history through their communication signals. What we found disturbs me greatly. The hologram showed images from Earth's past, cave paintings of humans using rocks and sticks as weapons, ancient armies turning farming tool into spears and swords, ships built for trade being converted into warships. Look at this, Zethkar said as the images changed. Humans took the metal from their cooking pots to make bullets. They turned their food preservation methods into chemical weapons. They even weaponized the very air they breathe. The hall fell silent as the aliens watched more images. Humans using fire as a weapon. Humans dropping rocks from high places to crush enemies. Humans training animals to fight for them. Dr. Luna Hayes sat in her small office on Earth's moon colony. She was the only human who knew what was happening in the Alien Council meeting. Luna worked as a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life, but her real skill was with communication systems. 3 days ago, Luna had detected the alien ship's departure from Earth orbit. Since then, she had been trying to intercept their communications. Luna was good with computers and signal processing. She had built her own listening equipment from spare parts and old satellites. Luna's computer made a soft beeping sound. She had broken through another layer of the alien encryption. Words appeared on her screen, translated from the alien language by her improvised decoding program. Human containment protocol under consideration, Luna read aloud. Her heart started beating faster. Threat level assessment in progress. Luna grabbed her coffee cup and took a drink while she read more of the intercepted messages. The coffee was cold, but she did not care. What she was reading was too important. The aliens were debating whether humans should be allowed to leave their solar system. Some of them thought humans were too dangerous to let loose in the galaxy. They had seen how humans could turn anything into a weapon, and it scared them. Luna started typing quickly. She needed to warn Earth Command about what was happening. But first, she wanted to gather more information about these aliens and their plans. Back on Pristine, Elder Mira spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Perhaps we are judging too quickly. Many species appear dangerous when first encountered. The humans may simply be creative in their survival methods. Creative, repeated Elder Korthak. That is exactly the problem. Most species follow predictable patterns in warfare. They build bigger weapons, stronger armor, faster ships. But humans seem to think differently about conflict. Zethkar nodded and showed more images from human history. Watch this battle from their past. The humans were outnumbered by an enemy with better weapons, but instead of fighting directly, they used the weather as a weapon. They waited for winter and let the cold destroy their enemies. The alien representatives whispered among themselves. Many of them had never thought of using natural forces as weapons. Their own wars were fought with energy beams and force fields, clean and predictable. Here is another example, Zethkar continued. Humans facing a superior navy. Instead of building bigger ships, they filled small boats with explosives and crashed them into enemy vessels. They turned transportation into weapons. Elder Vorthak's red skin grew darker. Among the Corvin, this meant he was impressed, despite himself. These humans fight with honor, using cleverness instead of just strength. I begin to understand why you are concerned. A new voice spoke from the back of the hall. It belonged to General Crix of the Zephyrian military forces. Show them the nuclear weapons, he said grimly. The hologram changed again. Now it showed human cities being destroyed by massive explosions. The aliens watched in horror as mushroom clouds rose into the sky. The humans split the very atoms of matter to create weapons, General Crix explained. They turned the fundamental forces of the universe into tools of destruction. And then they built thousands of these weapons. But they stopped using them, Elder Mira pointed out. Surely this shows wisdom and restraint. Or it shows that they found even more terrible weapons, General Crix replied. Our intelligence suggests they have been experimenting with biological warfare, weather control, and something they call cyber warfare. Luna Hayes had heard enough. Her listening equipment had picked up the entire debate. The aliens were seriously considering locking humanity in their solar system to protect the rest of the galaxy. Luna opened a secure communication channel to Earth Command. She typed her message carefully, knowing that this information could change everything. Priority alert. Alien Confederation meeting in progress. They consider humans dangerous due to weaponization abilities. Debating containment protocol to prevent human expansion beyond solar system. Recommend immediate defensive preparations. Luna sent the message, and then went back to monitoring the alien communications. She wanted to know exactly what these creatures were planning. On Pristine, the debate continued. Bait. Representatives from different species were arguing about what to do with humanity. The peaceful Mentari wanted to try communication and education. The warrior Corvin respected human fighting spirit, but worried about galactic stability. The calculating. Zephyrians wanted to study humans more before making decisions. Elder Korthak called for order. We have heard many opinions today, but we must make a decision. The humans cannot be allowed to spread their weaponization philosophy across the galaxy without proper safeguards. What do you propose? Asked Elder Mira. The Human Containment Protocol, Elder Korthak announced. We establish a barrier around their solar system. No human ships allowed beyond this boundary. No human technology shared with other species. We monitor them from a distance and only make contact when we are certain they can be trusted. Elder Vorthak stood slowly. His massive frame cast a shadow across the hall. And if they refuse to accept this containment? Then we enforce it, General Crick said from the back of the hall. We have superior technology and overwhelming numbers. The humans cannot resist if we are united. The vote was called. Representatives from 47 species cast their decisions. Luna Hayes watched the results appear on her computer screen. As her decoding program translated the alien words, 26 species voted in favor of the Human Containment Protocol. 21 voted against it. The protocol passed by the smallest possible margin. Luna stared at her screen in shock. Humanity was about to be imprisoned in their own solar system by aliens who feared their creativity. She opened another communication channel, this time to every human military base, research station, and colony in the solar system. This is Dr. Luna Hayes with emergency alert. Alien forces are preparing to blockade our solar system. They consider us too dangerous to allow interstellar travel. All stations prepare for possible hostile contact. This is not a drill. As Luna sent her warning across human space, she thought about what the aliens had said. They were afraid because humans could turn anything into a weapon. Luna looked around her small office at all the equipment she had built from spare parts. Her communication array was made from old satellite dishes and computer parts. Her decoding program was written using entertainment software and mathematical formulas. Even her coffee maker had been modified to help power her equipment. Luna realized that she had just proven the aliens' point. She had turned ordinary objects into a spy network capable of intercepting communications across light years of space. She had weaponized old junk and curiosity into a tool that could save humanity. The aliens were right to be afraid, Luna thought. But being creative was not something humans could just stop doing. It was part of who they were. And now that creativity would be put to the ultimate test. Captain Rick Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the largest fleet of alien ships he had ever seen. The vessels hung in space like deadly metal clouds at the edge of the solar system. There were hundreds of them, each one bigger than any human warship. How many are we looking at, Danny? Rick asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Danny Ross checked his instruments again. Sir, I count 412 ships. They are arranged in a perfect sphere around our solar system. Nothing gets in or out without going through them. Rick rubbed his tired eyes. It had been 3 days since Dr. Luna Hayes sent her warning about the alien containment plan. 3 days of non-stop preparation as every human military unit scrambled to defend Earth and the colonies. The problem was simple. Humanity had maybe 50 real warships, and most of those were old patrol boats built for fighting pirates, not alien fleets. The enemy had superior weapons, better shields, and technology that humans barely understood. Sir, called Engineer Casey Williams from her station. I have an idea, but you might think it is crazy. Rick turned to look at Casey. She was young, maybe 25, but she was the best engineer he had ever worked with. Casey could fix anything and build weapons out of spare parts. Right now, crazy sounds good, Rick said. What do you have in mind? Casey activated the main display screen. It showed a map of the solar system with all the human installations marked in blue dots. Look at this, sir. We have mining stations on asteroids, research bases on moons, and farming platforms in orbit around every planet. Those are civilian installations, Rick pointed out. They have no weapons. Not yet, Casey grinned. But what if we could turn them into weapons? The aliens expect us to fight like a normal military. They are prepared for warships and missiles. They are not prepared for a mining laser that has been turned into a death ray. Rick felt a spark of hope. This was exactly the kind of thinking that made humans different from other species. Show me what you have in mind. Casey's fingers flew over her computer keyboard. The mining station on Asteroid Belt 7 has industrial cutting lasers. We modify the power supply and targeting systems, and suddenly we have a long-range weapon that can cut through alien armor. The display changed to show more installations. The farming platforms have mass drivers for launching food containers to Earth. We load them with metal chunks instead of vegetables, and now we have kinetic weapons that hit like meteors. What about the research stations? Rick asked. Even better, Casey said excitedly. The science station orbiting Jupiter has a particle accelerator for physics experiments. With some modifications, that becomes a beam weapon that can punch holes through anything. Danny Ross looked up from his communications panel. Sir, we are getting reports from all over the system. Civilian engineers are already working on weapon conversions. They started as soon as they got Dr. Hayes' warning. Rick felt proud of his species. Faced with impossible odds, humans were doing what they did best. They were adapting, improvising, and turning whatever they had into tools for survival. Casey, how long do we need for these conversions? Rick asked. Most of the work is already done, sir. The civilian engineers have been working around the clock. We should have weapons online within 6 hours. On Mars Colony, Dr. Tony Clark was working on a different kind of weapon. Tony was a computer specialist who studied alien technology. When Luna Hayes shared her intercepted alien communications, Tony noticed something interesting about their computer systems. The aliens used crystal-based computers that were incredibly advanced, but also incredibly trusting. Their systems were designed for a peaceful confederation where no one tried to hack or sabotage other people's technology. Tony had spent the last 3 days writing a computer virus, unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. It was not designed to destroy their systems. Instead, it would turn their own technology against them. Jenny, take a look at this, Tony called to his assistant, Dr. Jenny Parker. Jenny walked over to Tony's computer terminal. The screen showed lines of code that looked more like poetry than programming. What does it do? It makes their ships think that other alien ships are actually human vessels, Tony explained. Their weapons will target their own fleet instead of us. Their navigation systems will send them flying into each other. Even their communication systems will start broadcasting false information. Jenny stared at the code in amazement. Tony, this is brilliant. But how do we get it into their systems? Tony pointed to another screen that showed a map of space around Earth. See that small alien scout ship that has been watching our preparations? I am going to upload the virus into one of our communication satellites. When the scout ship scans the satellite, the virus will transfer to their systems. And then it spreads to the rest of their fleet? Exactly, Tony smiled. The aliens are so connected and trusting that the virus will move through their entire network in minutes. They will never know what hit them. Back on the UES Defiant, Captain Martinez was receiving reports from across the solar system. The speed of human adaptation was incredible even to him. Sir, the mining station reports their laser array is ready, Danny announced. They have also loaded their cargo launchers with metal ore for kinetic bombardment. The farming platforms have converted their mass drivers, Casey added. They are using compressed food waste as ammunition. It might sound funny, but those projectiles will hit with the force of cannonballs. What about unconventional weapons? Rick asked. Casey checked her list. The waste processing station near Venus has turned their methane collection system into a chemical weapon delivery system. The solar panel arrays around Mercury have been repositioned to focus sunlight into concentrated beams. Even the weather, satellites have been programmed to interfere with alien sensors. Rick nodded with satisfaction. This was how humans fought. They did not have the biggest guns or the strongest armor, but they had something the aliens did not expect. They had the ability to see weapons in everything around them. "Sir," Danny called out urgently, "the alien fleet is moving. They are closing in on Earth orbit." Rick looked at the main screen. The alien ships were indeed moving, forming up into attack formations. Their energy shields were glowing, and weapon ports were opening along their hulls. "All stations, this is Captain Martinez," Rick announced over the fleet communication channel. "Operation Scrap Metal is now active. Every human installation is authorized to engage alien targets with any means available." The first shots came from the mining station on Asteroid Belt 7. The industrial cutting laser, now boosted with extra power and focus through improvised mirrors, cut through the shields of an alien battleship like a hot knife through butter. The aliens were shocked. Their instruments showed the attack came from what they thought was a harmless mining operation. Before they could respond, more attacks came from unexpected directions. A farming platform launched containers filled with metal scraps at tremendous speed. The projectiles punched through alien armor and caused explosions inside their ships. A research station fired its particle accelerator, creating a beam of energy that disabled 3 alien vessels at once. But the most devastating attack came from Dr. Tony Clark's computer virus. The alien scout ship had indeed scanned the human satellite and unknowingly downloaded the virus. Within minutes, it spread through the alien communication network. Suddenly, alien ships began firing on each other. Their sensors showed false targets everywhere. Navigation systems sent ships crashing into asteroids. Communication channels filled with contradictory orders and false information. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching his perfect fleet fall apart in chaos. Half his ships were firing at empty space. A quarter were attacking their own allies. The rest were trying to figure out what was happening. "What is going on?" Zethkar demanded from his tactical officer. "Sir, our systems are malfunctioning. Sensors show human ships everywhere, but visual confirmation shows nothing. Our weapons are targeting our own vessels." Zethkar realized what had happened. The humans had not just turned physical objects into weapons. They had weaponized information itself, turning the aliens' own technology against them. "Pull back," Zethkar ordered. "All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. We need to understand what the humans have done to our systems." As the alien fleet pulled back in confusion, Captain Martinez watched from the bridge of the Defiant. The impossible had happened. A small human force had driven off a fleet 10 times their size. "Sir," Casey said with amazement in her voice, "we actually did it. We turned everything into a weapon." Rick nodded, but he knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would figure out how to fix their systems eventually. When they came back, they would be ready for human tricks. But Rick also knew something else. Humans would be ready too, with new tricks the aliens had never imagined. Because turning anything into a weapon was not just a human ability, it was a human promise. Admiral Kate Sullivan looked at the star map on her command screen. 3 months had passed since the first alien attack, and the war had spread across half the galaxy. What started as a simple containment operation had become something much bigger and more dangerous. Kate commanded the human fleet from her flagship, the UES Liberty. It was not the biggest ship in space, but it had been built using every trick humans had learned about turning ordinary things into weapons. The hull was made from recycled spacecraft metal. The weapons were modified mining equipment. Even the life support systems could be used as chemical weapons if needed. "Admiral, we have incoming messages from the front lines," reported Communications Officer Ben Taylor. "The situation is getting complicated." Kate nodded. The war had indeed become complicated. After the aliens' first defeat, other species had started taking sides. Some aliens respected how humans fought and secretly began helping them. Others were terrified of human weapons and joined the Confederation's efforts to contain humanity. What are we hearing from the Corvan Empire? Kate asked. Ben checked his communications panel. General Vorthak sends his regards. The Corvan fleet is still providing us with intelligence about Confederation ship movements. They say they respect how humans fight with honor and creativity. Kate smiled. The Corvan were warrior aliens who valued courage and clever tactics. When they saw how humans turned disadvantages into advantages, they became secret allies. They did not fight directly alongside humans, but they shared information and occasionally provided supplies. What about the Mentari? Kate asked. The Mentari are still trying to arrange peace talks, Ben replied. They keep saying this war could be avoided if both sides would just talk to each other. Kate wished it was that simple. But every time the peaceful Mentari tried to arrange meetings, something went wrong. The Confederation did not trust humans, and humans did not trust the Confederation. Too much blood had been spilled on both sides. Admiral, called Captain Linda Moore from the tactical station, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive Confederation fleet moving toward the Jupiter system. It looks like they are planning a major attack. Kate studied the sensor readings. The enemy fleet was huge, maybe 1,000 ships. But something was different about this attack. The aliens were spreading out instead of staying in tight formations. They had learned from their previous defeats. They are adapting, Kate said, grimly. No more close formations that our viruses can spread through quickly. No more predictable attack patterns that we can counter with improvised weapons. Meanwhile, on Europa Station, Dr. Lisa Chen was working on humanity's most dangerous project yet. Lisa was a physicist who specialized in quantum mechanics and space-time theory. Her research had been purely academic until the war started. Now, she was trying to weaponize the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The calculations are incredibly complex, Lisa explained to her research partner, Dr. Pete Rogers. We are not just bending space-time. We are trying to tear holes in reality itself. Pete looked at the equations covering every surface in the laboratory. Lisa, this is beyond anything humans have ever attempted. Are you sure we can control this kind of power? Honestly, no, Lisa admitted. But conventional weapons are not enough anymore. The aliens have adapted to our tricks. They have better shields, faster computers, and more ships than we can count. If we want to survive, we need to think bigger. Lisa's project was based on a simple idea that was incredibly difficult to execute. Space and time were not really separate things. They were part of the same fabric that held the universe together. If you could manipulate that fabric, you could create weapons that worked outside normal physics. Show me the test results again, Pete said. Lisa activated a holographic display that showed her experimental data. In the lab, we have successfully created small tears in spacetime. These tears can redirect energy, bend light, and even slow down time in small areas. And if we scale this up to weapon size, we could create reality bombs, Lisa said. Weapons that do not just destroy matter and energy, they destroy the space and time that matter and energy exist in. Pete whistled softly. That is terrifying. And also exactly the kind of thing that proves the aliens right about us being dangerous. Lisa nodded. I know. But they started this war. We are just finishing it with the tools we have. Back on the UES Liberty, Admiral Sullivan was planning humanity's response to the incoming alien fleet. The enemy had learned from their mistakes, but so had the humans. Both sides were adapting and improving their tactics. What unconventional assets do we have in the Jupiter system? Kate asked her staff. Captain Moore checked her reports. The gas mining platforms are still operational. They have been modified, with chemical weapon dispensers. The research stations have been turned into sensor jamming posts, and the cargo ships have been loaded with kinetic penetrators. What about the civilians? Kate asked. Most have been evacuated to the inner planets, reported Major Sam Williams, Kate's intelligence officer. But some volunteers have stayed behind to help with defensive operations. Kate thought about the volunteers. They were ordinary people, engineers, scientists, teachers, farmers. But in this war, ordinary people had become the most dangerous weapons of all. They were the ones who looked at everyday objects and saw tools for survival. Admiral, Ben called out urgently. We are getting a priority message from Dr. Lisa Chen on Europa Station. Kate opened the communication channel. Lisa's face appeared on the main screen, and she looked both excited and terrified. Admiral, we have achieved a breakthrough, Lisa announced. The reality manipulation system is ready for field testing, but I need to warn you about the risks. What kind of risks? Kate asked. This weapon does not just affect the target, Lisa explained. It affects the fabric of space-time itself. If we use it near a planet or star, we could cause gravitational disruptions that last for centuries. We could accidentally create black holes or tear holes between dimensions. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had always been good at turning things into weapons, but this was different. This was not adapting existing tools for new purposes. This was creating something entirely new and potentially catastrophic. How powerful is it? Kate asked. In theory, one reality bomb could destroy an entire fleet by erasing the space they occupy, Lisa replied. But it could also erase nearby planets, moons, or anything else in the affected area. Before Kate could respond, alarms started ringing. Throughout the ship, the Confederation fleet had arrived at Jupiter and was beginning their attack. Admiral, enemy ships are entering the system, Captain Moore reported. They are maintaining spread formations and advancing on multiple fronts. Kate made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Dr. Chen, prepare your reality weapon for deployment. Target the center of the enemy fleet, but keep it away from inhabited areas. Admiral, are you sure? Lisa asked. Once we use this weapon, there is no going back. We will have proven that humans really can turn anything into a weapon, even the laws of physics themselves. Kate watched the enemy fleet on her tactical display. Thousands of alien ships were moving toward human positions. Conventional weapons would not be enough to stop them. The only choice was to use the ultimate weapon that Lisa had created. Do it, Kate ordered. On Europa Station, Lisa activated the reality manipulation device. It was not a traditional weapon at all. It looked like a collection of mirrors and crystals arranged in complex patterns. But those mirrors and crystals were designed to focus and direct forces that existed beyond normal matter and energy. Lisa input the targeting coordinates and began the charging sequence. The device hummed with power that seemed to come from somewhere outside the universe itself. Weapon charging, Lisa announced over the communication channel. Reality distortion in 30 seconds. The Confederation fleet continued its advance, unaware that they were about to face something that had never been used in galactic warfare before. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles. Their armor could resist heat, cold, radiation, and chemical attacks. But they had no defense against weapons that attacked the very foundation of existence itself. 10 seconds to reality distortion, Lisa announced. Kate watched her tactical display and wondered if she was making the right choice. Humanity had always adapted and improvised to survive, but this felt different. This felt like crossing a line that should never be crossed. 5 seconds, Lisa called out. Kate closed her eyes and hoped that when she opened them, there would still be a universe left to save. The reality bomb exploded in a way that no one could properly describe. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the bridge of the UES Liberty as space itself seemed to fold and twist around the center of the Confederation fleet. Ships that had been there one moment simply were not there the next, as if they had never existed at all. But something else happened that no one expected. The distortion in space-time created a ripple that spread outward like waves on a pond. And from somewhere, in the deep darkness between galaxies, something noticed. Admiral, Communications Officer Ben Taylor called out with fear in his voice. We are getting readings from the edge of the galaxy. Something big is coming this way. Kate looked at her sensors, but the readings made no sense. Whatever was approaching was massive beyond anything she had ever seen. It was not just big like a planet or a star. It was big like a solar system. Dr. Lisa Chen's voice came over the communication channel from Europa Station. Admiral, the reality weapon worked too well. The space-time disturbance has sent signals across the universe. We have awakened something, that was sleeping. Before Kate could ask what Lisa meant, new contacts appeared on every sensor screen in human and alien space. Ships began emerging from the darkness between stars, but these were not like any vessels anyone had seen before. They were organic, like living creatures grown instead of built. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet disappear into nothingness. Half of his ships had been erased by the human reality weapon. The other half were scattered and confused, but now something even worse was happening. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "unknown vessels are entering our space. They are not responding to any communication attempts." Zethkar looked at the sensor readings and felt a fear deeper than anything he had experienced before. These new ships were ancient beyond measure. They moved through space like predators hunting for prey. "Send a message to the human fleet," Zethkar ordered. "We need to talk immediately." On the UES Liberty, Admiral Sullivan received the alien communication request. After months of war, the enemy commander wanted to negotiate. But before she could respond, her science officer made an announcement that changed everything. "Admiral, I am analyzing the new contacts. These ships are not just alien. They are something else entirely. They seem to exist partially outside normal space-time, and they are heading for every inhabited system in this part of the galaxy." Kate realized that humanity and the Confederation were no longer enemies. They were both potential victims of something much worse. "Open a channel to the Confederation flagship," Kate ordered. Commander Zethkar's image appeared on the main screen. His usually calm demeanor was gone, replaced by obvious panic. "Admiral Sullivan," Zethkar said quickly, "we must end our conflict immediately. The creatures approaching us are called the Devourers. They have been sleeping in the void between galaxies for millions of years. Your reality weapon has awakened them." "What are the Devourers?" Kate asked. "Ancient beings that consume entire civilizations," Zethkar explained. "They eat not just matter and energy, but also the concepts and ideas that make civilizations unique. They leave behind empty space where thriving worlds once existed." Kate felt her blood turn cold. "How do we fight them?" "That is the problem," Zethkar replied. "Normal weapons do not work against the Devourers. They exist partially outside our reality. Energy weapons pass through them. Physical projectiles have no effect. Even your reality bombs cannot touch them because they are not fully bound by the same space-time that we are." On Europa Station, Dr. Lisa Chen was frantically studying sensor data from the approaching Devourers. Her reality weapon had worked perfectly against the Confederation fleet, but these new enemies were different. "They exist in multiple dimensions at once," Lisa explained to her research partner Pete Rogers. "Our weapons can only affect them in three-dimensional space, but they have parts of themselves in dimensions we cannot even detect." "So how did ancient civilizations fight them?" Pete asked. Lisa checked her computer databases for any historical records. According to Confederation archives, most civilizations did not fight them. They just died. But there are a few records of species that survived by doing something unexpected. "What did they do?" "They did not try to fight the Devourers directly," Lisa explained. "Instead, they attacked the concepts that the Devourers were trying to consume. They weaponized ideas themselves." Back on the UES Liberty, Admiral Sullivan was coordinating with alien allies she never thought she would have. Commander Zethkar had sent technical data about the Devourers to help human scientists understand the threat. "Admiral," reported Captain Linda Moore, "the first Devourer ships have reached the outer colonies. We are losing contact with mining stations and research outposts." Kate watched helplessly as red indicators appeared on her tactical display. Each red light represented a human installation that had simply stopped existing. "Any survivors?" Kate asked. "No, ma'am," Captain Moore replied grimly. "The Devourers do not just destroy. They consume everything, including the memory that places ever existed. If not for our sensor records, we would not even know those colonies had been there." Engineer Casey Williams was working frantically in the ship's modification bay. She had been given an impossible task: find a way to weaponize human creativity itself. "Think about this differently," Casey muttered to herself as she worked. "The Devourers eat civilizations by consuming what makes them unique. So what makes humans unique? Casey looked around the modification bay at all the improvised weapons and jury-rigged systems. Everything in the room had been built by taking ordinary objects and using them in ways they were never designed for. That's it, Casey said suddenly. What makes humans unique is not any specific tool or weapon. It is the ability to see weapons in everything. We need to weaponize that ability itself. Casey opened a communication channel to Dr. Lisa Chen on Europa Station. Dr. Chen, I have an idea. What if we could create a weapon that spreads the concept of weaponization to the devourers themselves? Lisa thought about this for a moment. You mean make them start turning their own systems into weapons against each other? Exactly, Casey replied. Humans see weapons everywhere because we think creatively about survival. If we could force the devourers to think like humans, they might start consuming each other instead of us. Dr. Tony Clark joined the conversation from his computer lab on Mars. I have been studying devourer communication patterns. They share information through some kind of collective consciousness. If we could inject human thought patterns into that network, it might work. Admiral Sullivan listened to her people brainstorm the most impossible weapon ever conceived. They wanted to weaponize human nature itself and use it as a virus against creatures that existed in multiple dimensions. How would we deploy something like that? Kate asked. The same way we have always done it, Casey replied. We improvise. We take whatever we have available and turn it into what we need. Lisa Chen activated her reality manipulation equipment, again, but this time with a completely different purpose. Instead of tearing holes in space-time, she was going to create a bridge between human consciousness and the devourer collective mind. I am modifying the reality weapon to broadcast human thought patterns directly into multidimensional space, Lisa announced. But I need volunteers to provide the mental patterns. What kind of volunteers? Admiral Sullivan asked. People who represent the best of human creativity, Lisa explained. Engineers who build weapons from spare parts. Scientists who see solutions in impossible problems. Anyone who looks at the universe and sees opportunities instead of limitations. Within hours, volunteers from across human space were connected to Lisa's modified reality weapon. Jake Morrison, the maintenance engineer who started it all, volunteered from Frontier Base. Engineer Casey Williams connected from the UES Liberty. Dr. Tony Clark joined from Mars Colony. Thousands of other humans added their creative thoughts to the collective transmission. Broadcasting human weaponization concepts in 3, 2, 1, Lisa announced. The transmission spread outward through multidimensional space, carrying with it the essence of human creativity. The devourer collective consciousness, used to consuming and destroying, suddenly found itself infected with new ideas. For the first time in millions of years, the devourers began to think creatively about their own existence. They started seeing their own biology as tools that could be modified and improved. They began viewing their consumption abilities as weapons that could be turned against each other. Commander Zethkar watched in amazement as the devourer fleet began to tear itself apart. The ancient creatures were attacking each other with their own consumption abilities, each one trying to outcreate the others in acts of self-destruction. It is working, Zethkar reported to Admiral Sullivan. The devourers are consuming each other. Your people have weaponized the very concept of creativity itself. Admiral Sullivan felt a strange mix of pride and horror. Humanity had once again proven that they could turn anything into a weapon, even their own thought processes. As the last devourer ship destroyed itself, peace settled over the galaxy for the first time in months. The immediate threat was over, but the implications of what had happened would be felt for generations. Common,